Well, howdy there, everybody. I hope you're doing well today. I'm going to read a part from a book that I'm writing. I actually have a lot of different books that I'm writing, and I'm kind of going to piece them together eventually. But this is one I just found on my file on a thumb drive, and I hadn't heard it in a while, so I added a few parts, and I see what you think of it. It's about, basically, it started out with the idea about solfeggio, but kind of wanted to cover the DNA change. You hear a lot about this lately, about DNA change and activating DNA. So I'll just read this and you see what you think of it. All of our senses are based on vibrations. We consider so much illusion, but the spectrum we can see and deal with is so small in the big picture of wavelengths, from radio waves to microwaves. Who is to say that interdimensional beings do not see in these waves? Infrared goggles allow us to see otherwise unseen shades of waveform. Certain waves we are aware of, such as color and sound, are obvious, and they affect us greatly. But the subtler waves must also affect us just as much, if not more. Cosmic waves, never before read on any instrument, or any instrument has not been made yet. Some things are beyond our grasp. Recently, folks have begun to study the effect of solar flares have on human behavior. As we know, even the full moon pulls the tides and increases crime rates on those nights. There's a subtle energy at work here, and it's largely being ignored by science. Solfeggio tones, or a series of sacred tones, have recently resurfaced on the internet and in New Age books. These tones each have their own uses, from chakra to chakra, otherwise known as the body's energy centers. It has been said that these tones were suppressed by the Catholic Church in the early days for fear that people would not need the Church if they could find God on their own, and that was bad for business. Solfeggio tones could open one's mind and help them ascend or experience true love. My own personal research into these tones have left me suspicious but curious. As the tone numbers add up to 9 when reduced, they're still based on the Hertz system, which came after the tones were supposedly created, but more about numbers later. Now, if tones in the visible spectrum, separated by only a few thousand hertz, could change a person so drastically, it can only be assumed that we are bombarded every day by millions of different types of rays of energy that react with our psyche in ways we are not aware of. Just as going out in the sun can improve one's mood, because it helps you produce vitamin D, going out in the cosmic rays every day surely must signal your DNA in 1,000,001 ways. Which leads us to the modern day, and the possibility of a change in DNA of modern man. It has been more out in the open lately, and the possibility of such an event may seem ludicrous. People have to evolve over time, right? Well, the new science says not so fast. We could perhaps alter our entire look and behavior in a generation or two, under the right conditions. The theories that have been surfacing have all been presented that are all great. The theories that have been presented are all great in their own way. But the one that has my attention is the galactic wave theory. In a nutshell, there is a pulse that comes from the center of our galaxy at regular intervals, perhaps coinciding with ancient scriptures or long before. It seems to be about every 26,000 years, and mankind changes in a flash. Or do they? But why and how? Well, our DNA is more than just a map of who we are. DNA may be an antenna, a receptor, that changes as our reality changes. It is everything we are. Our brains and hearts have cells and process information, but the information is everywhere and accessible by anyone. This can be seen with remote viewing and psychic abilities, if one is willing to look closely at the evidence. However, it is usually considered pseudoscience and ridiculed by the mainstream. Now, this writing is not to prove or disprove the eccentrics of psychic readings and prophecy. I think most people have come to the conclusion that these things are either real, or at least to an extent, they deserve a deeper look into why they happen. The religious approach of science has made sure that these questions never become a reality, but rather something to snicker at on newscasts on slow days. But this does not mean they are not real. Rather, it means that anything too big for science to handle gets placed on the back burner and becomes forgotten. But the military doesn't see it that way. The U.S. used remote viewing and psychics successfully for many years, and there are documents to prove their efficiency. Where it led, and what they have in place now, we can only wonder. But there is something to it, that's for sure. While they officially abandoned these types of research, one can only assume they are still going strong. In fact, psychic warfare may be the next phase in our own destruction. So what will happen to our DNA if it suddenly changes? Would it affect only newborns, or every person young and old? Is it gradual? Is it even something to consider possible? While I am no expert in this field, the limited studies I have seen on evolution show a sudden leap at particular times with particular species. It seems that while some animals and plants evolve at a high rate, others remain consistent for millions of years. Mostly this seems to occur with the reptile family, which could have ultimately led to many of the myths about these animals. Ancient and enduring, they seem timeless. But then there are humans. While many people believe there was a sudden change in genetics around 40 to 50,000 years ago, the most recent archaeological findings have shown a gradual change over about the last 200,000 years. Mankind as we know ourselves has been through a steady change over a long time. What is more interesting is that in that time there have been other species which walked alongside man until they gradually became extinct, such as Neanderthal. However, many believe the Neanderthal genes survived and are in some genetic lineages still today. And while we once thought ancient man incapable of speech, we have found skeletal evidence that Neanderthal could speak as well as we do, if not better, or at least they had the capacity if they were intelligent enough. We can only use the evidence as we find it, but in my belief, we don't give enough credit to the possibility of a more intelligent past. But what does this mean in relation to DNA change? Well, nobody is sure, but understanding leaps in technology and farming does not mean leaps in intelligence. It might, but as Jared Diamond pointed out in Guns, Germs, and Steel, many of the circumstances of our success as a society depended on the available materials. So when man learned to farm, he had more time to relax. Then he learned new techniques and eventually over thousands of years was building temples and palaces. When we view this from our current place in time, it seems like it all popped up at once. That man was given some technology from the gods, which has led to countless theories, including the famous ancient aliens theory, which seems to dominate many current circles of thought. While I did entertain this idea for a time, it seems too convenient to be the simple answer. The idea was proposed by Sitchin and others, in a nutshell, that aliens came to Earth to mine gold and used someone to help with the labor. They needed a capable species, so they tweaked the DNA of some lineage to make them more intelligent, and eventually we were left to fend for ourselves, and here we are. Now, while this may hold some part of truth, I highly doubt it is so cut and dry. It is another convenient answer to a complex question. I have heard countless arguments that humans could not have built the pyramids, or understood the astrological maps so well, without help from an alien race. I personally think this sells the human race short, in a way. We're pretty damn ingenious, but how and why our self-awareness came to be remains a mystery. So we always yearn for answers. In this way, the alien theory is no better than the religious one. It's a way to explain the unexplainable. But let's say for a minute this did happen, that aliens came and tweaked our DNA. This does nothing to answer the question we are asking. How did intelligence come to be, and why? In other words, somebody had to make these intelligent aliens and the ones before them. If you go back far enough, at one time some species had to evolve from scratch, or be created as such. This often leads back to the Adam and Eve idea, and many other convenient explanations. We just don't know, and may never know. In fact, in my heart, I feel we are not meant to know the whole picture. It is part of the mysteries we endure. So where does this leave us with the DNA change, and why did I digress so much into history? Because we can learn so much from the past and place value on the things the ancients knew. We often think of the ancients as superstitious, silly people with funny rituals and gods. We assumed they must have used these gods to explain the world around them. They had the moon gods and the sun gods because they were ignorant. I know people think this because it is what I as well was brought up to believe. I was told the ancients were just trying to explain this world. Never was I told to consider they might actually know many of the answers. But as a teenager I started to learn real history and saw the real world before my eyes. And I'm fascinated by the way our ancestors so carefully encoded science of DNA, double helix, and so much symbology left for us to discover. They knew something, and we have lost. And today I think we're starting to wake up to it. Now, to be clear, I do not believe the idea that tomorrow the world is going to wake up and everyone will know the truth and all will be well and rainbows will fall in every corner. No, the reality is that our material world requires balance, which means the intellect will always be matched by the ignorance, and the love will always be challenged by the hate. So there is no magic pill, as much as people would like to believe. Utopia is right here on Earth, in this body, now. Let me explain. Our DNA is a crystalline structure, as everything is. All matter is vibration and energy. When this energy is met with a resonating frequency, many changes could possibly take place. We are just on the verge of understanding how DNA really works, and it's an exciting time. Unfortunately, many of the New Age communities have ungracefully claimed unlimited healing benefits from just about everything, and every tone, and every crystal, and every vibration or idea that comes along, they push it as gospel. It's just the latest fad in a new line of New Age tricks, and there's seldom, if ever any proof that a single one of these DNA healing schemes do anything at all. But psychosomatic experience may play a part in many of these results. A placebo effect. In this way, a person's faith may play a key role in effectiveness. Now, if this is so, a person's intent may very well have a place in healing DNA, or even altering it. If we pass on our behaviors and desires to our children, then it is only obvious that we change our behaviors and habits, we will change our DNA. So in this way, it appears to take effort to change one's genetic makeup. But people would rather much believe that change is coming, kind of like waiting for the rapture. Rather than taking accountability now, we wait in angst for the next thing. I do not think this approach is productive, but to each his own. That's as much as I have so far. We'll see if it goes anywhere. I just figured I'd get that out there and see what people thought of it. It's just some, I'm really curious about the whole DNA structure thing, and whether these are really going to happen. Whether people are really going to find any type of a genetic marker that shows that we were actually, created by aliens. People have been looking for these things, and I think that DNA is one of those things that you cannot just claim that you can heal DNA through frequencies. I have seen the cymatics experiments, and I understand how the resonating frequencies work. And I've heard of one DNA repair, supposedly, but I have yet to see the experiments. Apparently the guy wouldn't even release them. I don't know if that's true, but more to learn. I'm not in denial of it. I'm just saying that you have to be skeptical, be cautious, and be careful with some of these people out here telling you they can heal your DNA. But peace and love to everybody. I'm out.